right, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. As you know, former Illinois State Senator Martin Sandoval pleaded guilty earlier today to bribery and to a tax offense. As part of that plea agreement, Mr. Sandoval has agreed to fully and truthfully cooperate with the government, with the U.S. Attorney's Office in any matter that we ask him to cooperate on. As set forth in that plea agreement, Mr. Sandoval admitted that he solicited and accepted financial and other benefits from an individual affiliated with the Chicago area red light camera company, and in return for Sandoval using his official position as a state senator and also as the chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee to block legislation harmful to red light camera industry. Former Senator Sandoval also admitted that he engaged in other corrupt activities with other public officials and accepted money from other individuals in return for using his official position to attempt to benefit those individuals and their business interests. Mr. Sandoval admitted to accepting over $250,000 in bribes. In addition to the bribery, Mr. Sandoval admitted that he willfully caused his accountant to file false tax returns for several years, but in particular 2017, and as set forth in the plea agreement, the total amount of loss to the IRS during this time period was over $72,000, and the total amount of loss to the Illinois Department of Revenue was over $13,000. Our investigation is ongoing, and while our work is far from over in our public corruption investigations, I'd like to thank the FBI, who's up here, the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, and the Department of Transportation Office of the Inspector General and the Special Agent in charge who's here with me for their outstanding work on this case. I'd also like to thank the two prosecutors on this case, Chris Stetler and James Durkin, for their outstanding efforts to date. Lastly, I'd like to note again that our investigations are continuing, and to that end, we strongly encourage people who have information that might be helpful to our efforts to root out corruption to bring that information to our attention, to bring that to the attention of law enforcement, to the FBI, to the IRS, to the appropriate Inspector General, like the Department of Transportation here, or directly to our office at the U.S. Attorney's Office. And with that in mind, I'll take some questions.
Has he agreed to testify against another elected public official?
What Mr. Sandoval has agreed to do, he's agreed to testify on any matter that we ask him to testify about.
So in a state known for its corruption, how big of a public betrayal is this?
I'm not going to characterize the particular portrayal in this case or not. I think you all can do that, and you do that all the time. This is it's a significant case, as all of our corruption cases are.
He admitted to taking $250,000 in bribes, and apparently only some of that was from the red light camera folks. Can you tell us who else he might have accepted?
I'm not going to talk outside the four corners of the factual basis of the plea agreement.
Might be any way to find out this sentencing? Do you think it's a year away? Do you think it's 6 months away as this next?
I think it's far too early to tell when the sentencing will be. As we know, Judge Woods set a status date for 6 months out, and at that point, I think we'll have a better sense as to when the cooperation will be complete, including any testimony that might be necessary, and then ultimately, at that point, we'd have a better sense of when sentencing will be.
Could you discuss how much the maximum he might face?
So, as set forth in the plea agreement, the maximum sentence under the law, the maximum statute, is 13 years. As you know, set forth in the plea agreement as well, his sentencing guideline range is 121 to 151 months, I believe it is. And in return for the cooperation as set forth in the plea agreement, what the government has agreed to do, if there is full and truthful cooperation on any matter we ask him to cooperate on, we would make a recommendation that would be below the 121 months. That's where we're at. Yes?
To what extent, if any, has Mr. Sandoval already been cooperating with authorities in between the raid in September up to today?
What I can say about that is Mr. Sandoval has been cooperating. To the extent of his cooperation or what he's done, I'm not going to get into detail on that. But he has been cooperative today.
Why do you think a few state officials keep taking money even after Blagojevich?
I'm sorry, could you ask that question again?
Why do you think a few state officials keep taking money even after the Blagojevich case?
I don't know the answer to that question, and again, I think you all may have some thoughts in what you write. What I will say is it's a very stubborn problem we seem to have here in Illinois. And I believe we had another question.
Yeah, out of the 250, was
that visibility with the red light company, and then what's the breakdown, and then of the other entities?
Okay, so that's not spelled out in the factual basis of the plea agreement in any great detail. There is some information in there about particular amounts that were paid to Mr. Sandoval in 2018, but other than that, what's set out there, I can't go into any more detail on that.
John, have you reached a point in your investigation whether you know if Commonwealth Edison and Exelon have engaged?
Yeah, we're not able to comment on any other parts of any investigations that we have other than what's set forth in this plea agreement.
Why not name the red light company in the actual documents? Are they being investigated, or do they just get away with all of this?
Yeah, when as I think a lot of you know from having worked around here, we we don't name entities or individuals who have not been specifically charged, and so that's why you see the company A and individual A and other things like that in our different indictments, informations, or plea agreements.
Can you confirm CW1 is a red light camera company official?
I'm not going to confirm. I'm not going to confirm that. I'm not sure because specifically how CW1 is described in the documents, but I do believe there's some description of CW1 in the documents, and I'd ask you just to rely on that. Thank you.
You say that he is acknowledged working with other companies and other elected officials. Is it all within the red light camera industry, or are we talking about other industries?
Again, and I'm not going to go outside what we have in the factual basis of the plea agreement, and as you can see, that's in the plea agreement. It's a paragraph that's in there, and it's very general, but it does indicate that he is engaged in other improper conduct with other individuals, and it doesn't specify that any further.
A couple more questions. Is Speaker Madigan in the crosshairs of federal investigators?
I'm not going to comment on any other individuals, whether they are or not subject of any investigations.
In your ongoing investigations, how big of a deal is it to get someone like Sandoval to cooperate?
I think it's important whenever we have people who cooperate in any of our investigations. I think it's always important if we do have somebody who is a public official, if they, as Mr. Sandoval was, if he cooperates, that's important. Again, I'll leave it to you all to characterize how important that may or may not be
Your office
at this
has
point.
been on like a 2-year roll in terms of prosecutions of public officials. Are we getting close to the end, or is there a lot more to come?
I have no comment on that other than say we've been busy. As a lot of you know, I was an assistant U.S. attorney here for 11 years beforehand. We were very busy on the public corruption front then, and we're busy now, and that's all I'll say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Good. Back on the job. Good. Thanks.
It looks like
I'll ask when I get up there. Yeah.
I mean, I will read them. I'm not going to, of course, use them.
Want to take the whole thing?
Yeah.
Are we connected?
Nope.
Oh, yeah, you don't want that?
Yeah, I'll take that. I got it. Can you grab it?
Yeah, I think it's wheels on your side.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you guys